Today I want to have a look at this gear indicator on my Tornax V200. It's a German bike, 1952, and it has a gear indicator. It works by rack and pinion. There's a pinion connected to the selector rod, the selector barrel, and a little rack arrangement, and it pulls a cable, and it's gone wrong. It doesn't show, it should show neutral, and it doesn't. It sort of goes all over the place. So first job is to take it off, have a look, see what we can do. Here we are. Down here, this is the little rack and pinion housing. So I've got to take that off and then get all the cable unclipped and follow it up to the instrument. Alright, that's the instrument off the bike. As you can see, it has a Bowden cable which is permanently attached to it, so there's no way of changing the cable. Bottom is the little rack, and as you pull on the rack or pull on the cable, the gear indicator goes to a different position, but it never goes back to the same place one in a month. It seems to be working reasonably well, but there's something not right with it. As with most German-made instruments of the period, you can't take it apart. The only way to get the mechanism out is by unpeening the bezel. So that's what I'm going to do now. But first I'll make a little drawing, because the bezel is most likely going to be destroyed, so I can make a new one. Here we go. That's the bezel off, glass off, and got a little rubber seal in here. Probably safe. Now I can undo this nut, and I should be able to get the mechanism out of the housing. Right, let's have a look. Wow, that's less than expected. Okay. That is not a lot in there, which is quite good in some way. Shouldn't be too difficult to fix then. So I got it a bit further apart, and it's quite a simple mechanism. It appears I need to get this apart now. I need to get the needle off, and I think, by the look of it, it's held on with a tiny little pin. So I'm going to have some fun trying to get that out now. And the way it works is it's quite simple. It has a square drive in there that sits in the square here, which may be the problem because it looks a bit worn out. So that may well be why it was never showing the same position again. So that's quite good that I found that. And the square drive is, it sort of rotates by, it's a twisted rod. So as you pull it, a bit like lock wire pliers, it rotates. So all very dry, so I think that was probably one of the main issues. So let me see how I can get this apart a bit further. So the problem is this square drive should be tight in here, I believe, and it's not, which is why my indicator was just showing house numbers instead of gears. So I need to get this tight in. I think it was just peened over and it's just been rubbing and been wearing. There's no grease in there. Here's the square. This is sort of the spiral drive that goes in there, and as this is pushed up, the needle kind of rotates, only it doesn't because the square drive is loose in there. So if I tighten that up, all should be well. I think I might leave this one together. I have no reason to take this apart. I'll just clean it as it is and just try and tighten up the square drive in the bottom. Right, I went a step further. I want to change the cable as well. May as well, as I'm at it. Cable was held in by this little pin into this rod, and the cable itself, they have a little ferrule. They looped the cable round. I mean, it is, and it went in there, and the pin went through. Simple, but still so much intricacy. Now, how difficult is that to do? Especially if you want to change the cable, you have to change take the whole thing apart, like I'm just doing. Anyway, that's what it is. So I've got this apart, so that's good. So now I can change the cable, which is something I wanted to do because the cable is silver and the other cables on the bike are black. But it was impossible to change it because everything was in one piece. So now I can get a new, probably a throttle cable will do. And I can also make a ferrule for here because the ferrule for some reason is missing and it's always been a bit sloppy here. So good result. And now I just have to set about tightening up the square drive in this thing, make that secure, because I sure don't want to do that again. Okay, we've got all the parts. First job trying to put this back together. I made a little solder nipple instead of the loop they put into the Bowden cable, because I have got a new cable and it's slightly larger diameter than the original one, so I don't want to do the loop and ferrule. So I can easily, hopefully, solder this little brass nipple on that I've made. Right, let it cool down. Right, next is trying to get the spiral rod in this nipple. I lost the pin, but I found a nail which is nice and snug, so I think I can knock that in, and once it's through, chop it off, and it should be a good fit. Try and line the holes up, which isn't easy. Okay, I think that's got it. I'm just going to chop that nail off and grind the ends flat. Rod fitted to the new cable, and I'm very happy with that. That nail is as good as a hardened pin. It was very hard, so yeah, I think that's going to stay in there for another 50 years. Right, let's see what we have to do next. And the next step is to get this back on here with the spring installed. So spring goes in first, I believe. I need to somehow compress the spring and then fit this in and get the little dowel back in, which runs in these tracks. I shall grease it all up first. Not an easy thing. So jammed the spring in there with a little drift. I put all the pieces in, and now I've got to get the dowel across through the hole. Attempt pushing it in. No, that's going the wrong way. Feels a bit better. That needs to go a little bit further in. I can knock that in now. Okay, I'm not happy with that. There's the spring is sort of working its way down. That's not good. Don't like that. I'll have to reconsider. I have to knock that out again. So that pin is a bit short and also a bit loose. And the reason the spring can work its way around is because the pin's too short. So I thought, why not use one of those nails I've just used for the other bit, because they're nice and tight in the hole and it's longer, so it'll stick out either side, and I've got enough room in the housing to have quite a long pin. So we're going to try that. Okay, a nail poking through. It's nice and tight in there. The spring can't work its way around the pin anymore, so that's all working. I'm just going to tidy up this nail a little bit. I think I'm going to push it all the way through because it's got a nice head. I'm going to leave that just a millimeter away from the slot, and then cut the other side off and tidy it up a little bit, and looks very good. So our next step is getting the dial bolted back up. Right. That's very good, because when it's in its fully extended position, or in fact if the cable is fully retracted, I want it to be past the 1, and it is. How much play is in that? There's a lot of play in that. That's not good. Need to tidy up that square. But in principle it's going to be, how many revolutions have I got? 1 and a bit. So I need to get this square nice and tight, because I've got almost a gear's worth of slack. So I think there are two problems with this. One is the drive square is quite worn, which accounts for the play I have. So I have to improve this drive square, and the only way I can see doing that is replacing it. Got to find a bit of copper sheet or brass sheet, or I might make a I might make something in brass that I can glue onto this, a little brass bush into which I file a square. And the other problem I see is there's too much play here, because obviously the cable is pulling on this. So all come to pieces again, and I made this little brass washer cup, more like a cup, which I intend to glue onto the dial pin. Now I have to try and I drilled a hole as big as I can. Now I have to make that a nice square that fits nicely onto that, smooth, without too much play. So I'm going to give that a go now. Oh, I think we're there. Is it better than the other one? That is to be seen. It certainly is smooth. Well, that's definitely worth a go. So I just have to attach that to the original dial pin barrel, something, whatever it's called. Happy with that. I'm beginning to feel a little bit like a watchmaker. So the reason there was play that allowed the needle to sort of jump almost a gear's worth was because the clock face itself had worn. It was sitting there, and that's supposed to kind of sandwich the needle between its housing rod, and that had worn out, so it got thinner, and that allowed the play. So I drilled out the clock face, the center. I made a tiny little brass adapter bush, goes on there, and then the needle is threaded into the needle rod like so. Tightened up, and now I have very little play, but it's rotating freely, so it should be good. Now they have put a tiny pin there that now I don't know if it still lines up with the hole or not, and I don't think I'm going to reuse it. I'm going to use a tiny bit of thread lock on that needle, and I'm going to mix up some epoxy glue now to glue on the brass square I made. And then it's just I'm trying to figure out the orientation of the square, and after that, once the glue has gone off, hopefully I can put it all back together. Okay, all parts are ready now. So I've got my new drive square glued on, and fits nicely in the hole here. It's going to support it a little bit because it's brass, and before it was just aluminium, so it's going to slide better. So first step is put the needle and the face back on. Now I'm going to just prepare a tiny bit of thread lock. Then I'm going to put on the needle. There we go. That'll do. So face, my new brass top hat goes in there. And a bit of thread lock on the needle. Screw that in. Nice. Okay. Now we have to wedge that spring in again. Right. Bit of grease required again. Okay, let's try and get those little screws back in. I think that's so. It's got to go from here. 1, 0, 2, 3, 4. It's got a couple of high spots, but I think I just need to work it a bit and work away these high spots. It's just one, really. I have to check that where that is tight just there. There's no play in the needle now, which is great. Feels much better when I take it out the vise. Maybe I was crushing it a little bit. So it's going to go from 0, it's going to go down to 1, and it goes to 2, 3, and 4. Just there's this tiny high spot. I'm going to try and... I'm not sure why. Actually, if I pull the cable straight, it isn't. So probably when I put it together, it might be okay. But I think it's a good place to be. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and carry on assembling. So back in its housing, which I also painted, all working smoothly, looking very good. I've got a new bezel which I made out of aluminium, polished up, looks just like chrome, and that's just going to be glued on. The only thing left to make is a new rubber gasket to go in there to seal the glass. The original one is in remarkably good condition but shaped to fill the old bezel, which was just pressed steel. So I need to make a flat rubber washer, not a big deal. But I'm going to put this back on the bike as it is now, in case I have to take it apart again. I want to make sure it all works on the bike, check that I'm happy with my cable length, and then I have to get the length on this one, the inner cable cut, and the new nipple soldered on and put onto the little rack. So that's the next job. It's back on the bike, looking as good as new. Let's see if it works. First, second, third, fourth. Success! Hopefully you found it interesting, and thank you for watching.